Okay, we're working on the heads for the 2110. These are the Steve Timms heads that I bought, and of course I took them apart, check them out, and I recommend you check any head that you buy. These have grease on the valve guide, and a lot of time that grease, you know, if you don't wipe this off and put oil here instead of grease, the grease will inhibit the oil from getting to the guide, and you can have premature guide failure. Plus, you want to take the grease off and check the guides and make sure that they're not too loose. You know, after you clean the grease off, put the valve back in there and make sure that they're not too loose. We're going to go ahead and lap these valves in, because they're not lapped in. They just did a valve job, it didn't lap the valve job in. So we'll use our headstand there. A Coke can makes perfect headstand. We have the valve lapping compound. You guys seen me use this before. You don't want to get too carried away with this. You know, just a little dab will do, and you want to make sure that you don't get any in the on the stem of the valve, because this stuff will tear the valve guide up. So you don't need a whole lot of this. And then we'll just drop it in there and give it a lap. Verify the valve job, and make sure that we have a good seating surface on both the head and the valve. This is the second head. I already did the first one. So these are just a few steps I take if I buy a set of cylinder heads that are already done. I just bought these because they're reasonably priced. I didn't feel like porting a set of cylinder heads and cutting it for double the valve springs and all that, so I picked these up. Figured I'd get a new set of heads for this motor. I do have a set of used heads that I've been working on, but they don't go with the rest of the parts, so the rest of the motor is all brand new, so we're just going to try to keep it that way. The only thing that'll be used will be the Berg rockers, which probably won't end up going with the motor unless somebody wants them, because they're $750 for the rocker arms. So it might be better to buy a set of CB Performance rockers or scats. There you go. It's got a nice valve job. It's right at the edge. It's thin. Can't complain about the valve job at all. Thought it was pretty decent. The shape of the seat's nice. The port's real nice. These are stage 2 heads. They're not welded. They do have a little bit of weld on the intake port, but I don't think that was planned. So this is their new casting they're using now. They used to use the 043, and this is a different casting. It's a 44 millimeter intake valves, 37 exhaust. So this motor should make really good power with these. I haven't decided on the cam yet, still up in the air on that. And still trying to figure that out. Yeah, I definitely want to go with a high lift cam, but on the other hand, it would be much cheaper on the rocker arms if I just went with a traditional 1-to-1 cam or 1.25 lift on the rockers. You don't ever make the same power as the high lift cam setup, so I'm thinking that's the way I'm leaning. That seat looks really good. Good, the intake valve looks nice too. These are it's all brand new parts, you know. We're just checking everything. I did notice that the keepers, valve keepers, need to be ground. Or ground set in the other heads. I'll show you how to do that and why I do it here in a minute. So we're looking for like 12-second power here. You know, that's the goal. If I put this in my car, I want to at least be able to go out to a track and run some 12-second passes. And probably end up having to go to training, I'm sure. goes in my car, but the plan is to sell it, not put it in my car. And yeah, if I sell this motor, I might build a little bigger motor for the old Miss Piggy out there, Rusty. He needs a big motor. This is sort of a small motor. I originally intended on putting this in my bus. That's why it has a thick wall 90.5s. And it's a pretty decent motor. 82 crank, billet rods, billet crank, chrome moly flywheel, high lift cam, SEMA cylinders are 90.5s, thick walls, a new set of heads, and then the Berg rockers, and then a brand new set of Redline 48 IDAs to top them off. I was looking at exhaust systems today. Everything they had in stock was a little on the small side, so me and Ken, the YouTuber, went down and bought some parts for his 1600. And I got a parts list I need to email to one of my YouTubers. Wanted a parts list for the 1600, Super 1600. We made a list of all that for him, and I got to email that to him. So you should get that in a day or two. Alright, it looks really good. All the valve jobs done. It's pretty racy. Again, these are the stage 2 heads. These are sort of like a street strip head. You know, the next head up is $1,700 and it's welded. I didn't really want to go that route. The motor's going to be expensive enough as it is. So there we go. That's the port. They're CNC ported. And chambers, intake ports, and the exhaust ports. So let's move on to step number, I don't know what step this will be. Let me set this off to the side here. And next we're going to be using the valve grinding machine. Cut the keepers. And put the lid on this stuff so it doesn't evaporate. I like to use a little pair of vice grips. You can use pliers, whatever you want. You can buy these from Gene Berger. You used to be able to pre-ground. These are hardened keepers, chrome moly retainers, and HT valve springs, double springs. These are the actual valve keepers, and what they do is these lock the valve in place into the retainer, and they go in these little grooves here. And what happens with the factory keepers, hardened or not, if you don't grind them, they touch each other and they let the valve move inside the keepers. So there's a little bit of play in there. So the idea is to come in here and spot grind these keepers and make them not touch each other so they have a more positive lock on the valve stem. If you don't do this step, when you go to take the heads apart, these grooves will be all sharp where the keepers have been moving on them, and it can make it difficult to get the valve out of the valve guide. A lot of times you'll have to go in and file this with a file before you can pull it through the valve guide. And a lot of times guys will just drive that through the guide, and this will be all packed full of valve guide material when you get it out. So you always want to make sure that you smooth the valve grooves out, the keeper grooves, and don't let it compromise your guide as you're taking the head apart. So that's why we're grinding the keepers. That's why we do this step. So I'll just move this over here. I don't know if that's focus to mocus or not, but I'm going to turn the machine on, grind these, and then we'll reassemble this head. Say congratulations to my buddy Ronald there. He's having another baby. Got another one on the way. Building the family there. Just had a daughter and having another one now. Very cool. Ronnie, you see this? Congratulations. You just want to grind it. If they're black, they're a lot easier because you can see your surface that you grind there. You're not looking to reshape it, you're just taking enough off to make them touch, not touch. Of course, it's like anything, this might be a little difficult when you do it for the first time, so I always say get some used keepers. Try it with those first, and this goes for any kind of car, even an American car. I've seen this problem. I actually worked at a machine shop for years, and I used to pull cylinder heads apart all day long, and it's a pretty common problem. More so if the cars run hard naturally, you know. This isn't a problem on a stocker. If you see it on a stocker, usually it's from abuse. But in a performance application, or if you add valve spring or extend the RPM, this is almost always a problem. Alrighty. That's that for that. I'll bring the head back in over here and get reset up. Try to get a set here to show you what we did. These need to be ground quite a bit. They're a little bit small or a little bit big, so I'm gonna go a little more. First two I picked up weren't enough, so. Alrighty. So the big auctions this weekend, the Lambert Auto Auction. Now you can see how the keepers don't touch anymore and they slightly rock. I mean, you don't want to be an excessive groove there, but you definitely want it to be a positive lock. So, fumble it there. Now the keepers are tight on the valve. So that's something that almost is never done. You always want to check for that. Like I said, you can buy those from Gene Berg already pre-ground. And normally if I'm going to build a head, that's what I do. I just buy all the valve train components from him. So we'll go ahead and start by putting some Aeroshell on the valve stems, just oil, and reassemble these heads now. Alrighty, now we're going to just use the valve spring compressor and reassemble everything, and then we'll take them over in the press on the next video and check the travel. See how much lift we have on these springs. I think they're going to be fine for what we want to do. So I'll take a little bit of grease and brush in the grooves so it'll hold the retainers or keepers in place. Makes it a little easier. That's just in the grooves, just so the locks have something to stick to that way. Alright, so that's pretty much it. That's ready to go now. I'll never trust them out of the box, and that's why. I mean, obviously we had to grind the keepers and then we lapped them in. They weren't lapped in. And the next thing we'll do is check the valve travel and make sure all that's good, of course, before we just bolt them on soon. So there's a look at the CNC ported stage 2 Steve Timms heads. Ready to go. Got both sets, or both heads lapped in and reassembled now. So after we check for our travel, of course, we'll get them installed on the motor, and we'll make our push rods next. That'll be our next purchase, will be push rods. So we're getting some Manton push rods for it, so we have some good quality pieces in there. This motor will probably be turning about 7,500, I think will be the RPM range. So 7,500, 8,000 RPM, you gotta have good pieces, and we'll get us some good push rods. I'll show you how to make those, cut them. We'll go down and cut them on the lathe and do a set of push rods and assemble those, and that should be it. Should be taking this motor back apart and do a final assembly on it. So, alright guys, hope everybody's doing good today. Sort of a lazy day. I won't do much today. It's been raining for 3 or 4 days here. So, been sort of hard on the bones. Went to Triangle this morning with one of the YouTubers and purchased some parts for him. And that was pretty cool. So we're getting some stuff together to build Super 1600. So we're waiting on some bearings in the camshaft, and after that we should be off to the assembly. So we're gonna get the Beetle out of here beginning of the week. Obviously I haven't been able to paint it because it's rained for 4 days here. The humidity's been 200%. So that's what's been going on. I do have it all ready, however, and it's just a matter of getting some good weather. So a little bit of tape work there, and got a few more spots of tape, but pretty much the whole car's let's see here, whole car's either in 400 or 600, and I went ahead and resanded every bit of it: firewall, kick panels, heater channels, package tray, you know, you name it, it's sanded. The roof, and we'll paint it all again. Under the dash, the trunk area is all sanded. So basically all I'm taping up is where we did the liner work. And now I'm gonna have to retape this because I taped this about 2 days ago, and that's about the limit on this tape that I use is 2 days, and it's starting to lose its sticky. So we'll retape, but you can tell it's very humid. The paper's on the wet side, and there's the humidity gauge. 90% humidity, 79 degrees, and like I said, this is the first time the rain's actually stopped for 4 days, I guess. I drove to Orlando a couple times and it wasn't raining there. It's coming off the coast right into Volusia County, so we got a lot of it. So it's starting to break now, though. All right, guys, take it easy. Hope that helps some people out there. That's just the process I like to take, and don't ever buy ahead and just stick it on the motor and assume that it'll be okay, no matter who you get it from.